KABOOM. Zamp hope. Crack. Welcome back, citizens, to episode 2 of our deep dive mini-series.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm going all in today. So it is August 13th, 2026, the morning of the grand launch. We are standing in the vibrant Plaza Independencia in Montevideo. And, I mean, just picture this, right? Light blue balloons are just filling the sky.
Right, a total spectacle.
Exactly. A military band is playing this triumphant march, and the smiling president is standing at a giant podium, declaring to the entire nation that the brand new national digital wallet, the Billetera Digital, is totally inviolable.
Inviolable.
Sovereign. It is secured by high-assurance TuID digital certificates, BOING. The crowds are cheering wildly, completely unaware that they're standing on a massive, invisible digital trapdoor.
Well, I mean, honestly, the sheer theatricality of your delivery there is, it's actually the only sane way to process the intelligence reports we're looking at today.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, absolutely. Because the forensic breakdowns and the podcast transcripts we pulled from Alberto Daniel Hill, you know, the prominent Latin American cybersecurity analyst.
The digital dissident himself.
Right, the digital dissident. His reports read entirely like a farce. Like, the state is throwing a literal parade for digital infrastructure that has, you know, already been hollowed out from the inside.
And that is exactly our mission for this deep dive today. We are unpacking the August 2026 ultimate hack of Uruguay's digital infrastructure, specifically episode 2 of this saga, which we're calling The Grand Launch, Fireworks and False Confidence.
It's a very fitting title.
I thought so. And to really grasp how a sovereign nation's digital identity just completely collapses, we have to look at the people actually pulling the strings. Because while those fireworks are going off in the plaza, D-U-N-D-U-U-U-N, get to the underground.
The contrast is just wild.
It really is. Down in his Cybermidnight Cave, Alberto Hill is not watching the parade. He is drinking Cold Mate, and he is broadcasting live to like 12,000 listeners.
Yeah, and he's monitoring this underground X-Space audio room with a very, very telling name. It's called Bombitas del gobierno, which translates to government bombs.
Government bombs. Wow. And the villains of our story, right, this transnational hacking supergroup known as LaPampaChronus, they're sitting in that audio room.
Right.
And they are laughing, just howling with laughter.
Yeah, they're laughing because, well, they have been holding a royal flush for months while the state authorities are essentially playing Go Fish.
Go Fish, it's perfect.
It's true. I mean, the threat intelligence leading up to this morning is staggering. Months prior, in June, this exact same hacking group executed a massive breach of a business directory called guiaempresas.com.uy.
Okay, wait, so a business directory? Like a phone book?
Well, no, that's the thing. They didn't just scrape a few names off a public site. They exfiltrated 184,000 heavily enriched corporate records.
Right, and when you say heavily enriched, we aren't just talking about, like, public contact info here.
Far from it. An enriched record in this context means they have the company emails, the physical addresses, the internal support tickets, the internal billing tiers, and crucially, the RUT numbers.
The tax IDs, right?
Exactly. The foundational tax IDs for Uruguayan businesses. So they basically possess a complete high-definition map of the entire corporate ecosystem of the country. They know exactly who does business with whom, who has the money, and who the administrators are.
But I mean, that is just the reconnaissance layer, right? Like, a map is useless without a key to the front door.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the fatal security gap from May.
Yeah, this is the structural fire the government was completely ignoring while, you know, blowing up all those blue balloons.
Right.
Back in May, the state's TuID platform suffered a massive breach. Now, TuID is the foundational digital identity system that this brand new Billetera Digital relies upon.
Okay, so it's the core.
Yes. It functions as an accredited trust service provider, meaning it issues advanced electronic signatures. Under the law, a TuID signature carries the exact same legal weight as a handwritten signature verified by a public notary.
So it's basically the bedrock of digital trust for the whole country. If I sign a mortgage with TuID, the state recognizes it as absolute fact.
Exactly, which makes the May breach completely catastrophic. A subgroup called LaPampaLeaks exfiltrated around 8 gigabytes of internal backend data from TuID.
8 gigabytes, wow.
Yeah, and, you know, breaches happen, we know this, but the technical failure here is almost beyond belief. The state actually knew about the breach, but they completely failed to revoke the compromised TuID API keys and OAuth client secrets.
Okay, let's break those terms down for a second for the listeners, because the state authorities, you know, on that stage in the plaza, they were throwing around some very heavy acronyms to sound secure.
Oh, definitely.
They were bragging about having, like, FIPS 142 level 3 hardware security modules protecting all the citizen data. Like, it was impenetrable.
Like hardware security modules, or HSMs. These are physical computing devices that safeguard and manage digital keys. A FIPS 142 level 3 module is essentially military grade.
Like top of the line.
Very much so. It is designed to be physically tamper-evident. If someone tries to pry the casing open, the device automatically zeroizes.
Zeroizes, meaning it deletes everything.
Yes, it instantly deletes all the cryptographic keys inside to prevent them from being stolen. It is an incredibly secure titanium bank vault.
Okay, so they have this billion-dollar titanium bank vault.
Yeah.
But if they never revoked the API keys and the OAuth client secrets from the May breach, is that basically like building this vault, but taping the manager's master key to the front door, leaving it there for 3 months, and just assuming nobody copied it?
That is the perfect analogy, honestly. Let's look at the mechanics of those two credentials. Think of the API key as the physical ID badge you swipe at the door. It tells the server, I am an authorized administrator.
Right.
But in modern systems, you also need an OAuth client secret. If the API key is the badge, the OAuth secret is the continuous, invisible, cryptographic handshake that proves the badge isn't forged. It maintains the trusted session.
And the state just left both of them active.
They left the badge active and they left the handshake active, so the hackers didn't need to break into the titanium HSM vault at all.
They didn't need to risk zeroizing it.
Exactly. They simply used the exposed administrative credentials to stand outside the vault and politely instruct it to do whatever they wanted. By failing to change the locks after the May break-in, the state essentially told its own servers, trust whoever holds these credentials. Forever.
Man. Which explains exactly why, while the president is giving his soaring, triumphant speech about digital sovereignty, the hackers in that underground audio room literally unmute their microphones and announce, in 3 hours, the show begins.
Yep. They knew exactly what was coming.
Tick-tock, 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 the countdown is on. At 11:47 a.m., the Billetera Digital officially goes live to the public.
And we enter what the forensic timelines in the reports refer to as the 38 minutes of peace.
Just 38 minutes.
38 minutes.
Where everything is actually working perfectly. The state media is already pushing physical newspapers to the stands with massive front-page headlines screaming, total success.
Premature celebration at its finest.
Completely. Citizens are downloading the app, they're registering their identities, they're uploading their photos. The infrastructure is just humming along.
It is the ultimate calm before the digital hurricane. The system is doing exactly what it was programmed to do, completely unaware that the administrators monitoring the back end aren't just state employees anymore.
Right. And down in the Cybermidnight Cave, Alberto Hill plays the role of Cassandra. He sees the architecture. He knows the keys were never revoked. So he sends out a tweet to the public that just says, enjoy the show. The real launch begins shortly.
Chilling, honestly.
And then CRACK. The system shatters like cheap glass. In a matter of seconds, this inviolable digital wallet completely collapses. So what are the hackers actually doing in that exact moment?
Well, they initiate what is known as pre-validation fraud. And the terrifying part is just how simple it is. I mean, we are all conditioned to think of major cyber attacks as these hyper-sophisticated zero-day exploits, right, with cascading lines of green code falling down a black screen.
Right, like in the movies. You picture a guy in a hoodie typing furiously to break the firewall.
Exactly. But LaPampaChronus didn't need to write a single line of complex malware. They literally just walked through the front door using those unrevoked API keys. And in under 40 seconds, they began a massive operation of inverting biometric validation flags.
Okay, explain the mechanism of a biometric flag for a second, because when I download a high-assurance banking app, I usually have to scan my face or, provide a fingerprint to prove I'm a real human being.
Right. So when you scan your face, your phone does a complex mathematical calculation based on the geometry of your features. It sends that cryptographic hash to the server. The server then checks the math against your national ID photo on file.
Okay, makes sense.
If the math matches, a backend flag, which is literally just a simple Boolean value in the database, code flips from false to true. The system is saying, yes, this biometric data has been physically verified.
But the hackers bypass the physical camera entirely, don't they?
Completely. Because they hold the administrative API keys, they don't need to fake a million physical fingerprints or create, elaborate deep fake videos. They simply talk directly to the database.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they feed thousands of completely synthetic fabricated identities into the system, and then they use the exposed master keys to tell the database, change the biometric flag on all of these synthetic profiles from false to true.
So they are just manually overriding the math.
Yes. In a matter of seconds, they magically turned thousands of fake profiles into physically verified citizens within the state's foundational identity layer.
That is wild.
Oh.
I really want you, the listener, to just internalize the terror of what is happening here. Think about your own digital life. Think about a centralized system where your legal identity, your life savings, your property records, and your legal capability to sign binding contracts are all bundled together into a single point of failure.
It's a massive risk.
And now imagine that entire bundle being commanded by invisible transnational actors who can just create fake citizens with the exact same legal rights as you, simply because a state telecom company forgot to delete an old password.
It is the complete dissolution of objective truth in a digital space. If a synthetic identity is marked as biometrically verified by the sovereign state's own internal database, then functionally, legally, that synthetic identity is a real citizen.
And the real-world fallout from this is absolute hilarious chaos. Well, hilarious if you aren't the poor citizens actually living through it.
Okay, point.
Facepalm wham. At 12:25 p.m., the reports just start flooding into the public sphere. The brand new sovereign Billetera Digital starts showing citizens their life savings converted entirely into Venezuelan bolivars.
Which is a completely absurd currency conversion.
Yeah.
There is no financial or architectural reason for the system to default to bolivars.
They did it on purpose.
Exactly. It is a deliberate, highly visible mockery of the state's infrastructure.
Oh, but it gets so much wilder than just visual bugs. Listen to this one from the reports. A prominent businessman down in Punta del Este gets a push notification on his phone. It casually informs him that he just digitally signed a legally binding contract to purchase 500 dairy cows.
100 cow.
500 cows, ZAP. And because the system uses those TuID signatures, which carry the weight of a public notary, legally speaking, the state views that transaction as totally legitimate. He really did just buy 500 cows using his own digital signature.
Yeah, this is what we call the weaponization of non-repudiation. Non-repudiation is a legal and technical concept, meaning you cannot deny the authenticity of your signature.
Right, you can't just say, that wasn't me.
Exactly. Because the state's certificates weren't revoked and the hackers used the legitimate API channels, every single one of those fraudulent actions is technically and legally valid according to the system.
Unbelievable.
And at the same exact time this businessman is buying phantom cows, the central bank's internal systems start autonomously approving corporate loans to a fictional offshore company named Pampaleaks SRL.
Okay, if I am a government official sitting in the crisis room watching my central bank fund a cartel called Pampaleaks, my first instinct is to pull the plug. I am physically unplugging the server, racks, I am getting the president back on a television screen, and I am telling the entire country to freeze their accounts and monitor their credit immediately.
Well, sure. That is the logical, empirical, and ethical response. But Alberto Hill's threat intelligence introduces a very different theoretical framework for what actually happens in these corridors of power. He calls it the protocol of silence.
Protocol of silence.
And specifically, in this case, the state authorities immediately activate level 3 of this protocol.
Protocol of silence level 3. I mean, that sounds incredibly sinister, like a movie villain's backup plan.
It is the systematic institutional mismanagement of catastrophic cyber deception. Hill's thesis is that when a massive systemic failure occurs, institutions, whether they are sovereign states or massive tech monopolies, they instinctively prioritize narrative control and institutional optics over the empirical safety of their users.
So they don't shut down the servers.
They keep the servers running, and they explicitly order all government officials and crisis managers to tell the press that these anomalies are simply high-demand issues.
High demand.
Yeah, they instruct their PR wings to call the Venezuelan bolivar conversions isolated visual bugs caused by overwhelming citizen enthusiasm.
They just outright lie to the public while the vault is actively being emptied.
They do, but they do it through a very specific, calculated legal mechanism called semantic minimization. This is the absolute cornerstone of the protocol of silence. The institutions will systematically refuse to use legally accurate terminology. You will never hear them use the words hack, breach, or cyber attack.
Oh, wow. Think about your own inbox for a second, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever received an email from, like, a massive hotel chain or a credit card company that starts with, "We are writing to inform you of a recent data incident"? Or, we recently discovered unauthorized access to a limited server environment.
Yeah, everyone gets those. That is semantic minimization in action. And it isn't just about PR or looking good in the headlines. If a government official or a corporate CEO uses the word hack, it legally triggers mandatory data protection notification laws across multiple jurisdictions.
Ah, so it's a legal shield.
Completely. It invites immediate, intense media scrutiny, regulatory audits, and massive class action lawsuits. So instead, they release these incredibly sanitized bureaucratic communiques. They claim the incident was rapidly contained within a highly limited scope, even as the threat actors are actively roaming the network.
So they prioritize their unpolitical and corporate self-preservation over giving citizens the one thing they actually need to protect themselves, which is empirical forensic data.
Exactly. Every hour that an institution deploys the protocol of silence is an hour that the cyber cartel uses to drain accounts, forge contracts, and establish persistent backdoors. Citizens need immediate lead time. They need hours, not weeks, to freeze their credit lines, alter their primary passwords, and lock down their identity vectors.
Which is exactly why Alberto Hill is down in the Cybermidnight Cave losing his mind. He is watching this semantic minimization happen in real time, and he completely rejects it. He exercises what he calls radical transparency.
He just cuts right through the noise.
He does. He goes live on his broadcast, completely bypassing the state's public relations filter. He is pulling up the actual database architecture and showing his 12,000 listeners exactly how the biometric flags are being manipulated in real time. He is providing the raw forensic evidence while the state is on television talking about high demand.
Right. Well, Hill operates on the philosophy that transparency is the only effective disinfectant against systemic incompetence. Now, the underground communication channels he monitors, they're highly controversial within traditional law enforcement circles, obviously.
Sure.
But they provide undeniable asymmetric intelligence that the state simply doesn't have or, just refuses to share.
And here is where the story hits its absolute peak. BIFF. Hill drops the ultimate truth bomb on his live broadcast. It's an audio file, a live distorted voice note, sent directly to him from the hackers of LaPampaChronus themselves.
I mean, the sheer arrogance of sending a direct message to a public analyst during an active nation-state level breach is just astounding.
But the distorted voice plays over the airwaves, and the message is chilling. The hacker says, "Thanks for the map, Alberto. The protocol of silence is our best ally."
That single sentence distills the entire crisis. The cybercriminals are explicitly acknowledging the symbiotic relationship they have with institutional cowardice.
Wow.
Yeah, the state's refusal to admit the breach, their absolute refusal to warn the public that the wallet is compromised, is the exact mechanism that allows the heist to succeed.
Because nobody's looking for them.
Right. The hackers don't need to hide because the government's PR strategy is doing the hiding for them. They are operating freely in the dark space provided by the state's semantic minimization.
It is the ultimate illusion of safety. Because as night falls on August 13th, the day of the grand launch, you can pull out your phone, go on the App Store, and the Billetera Digital is sitting right there at the top of the charts with a perfect 4.5 stars.
A completely manufactured reality.
Exactly. The blue balloons are still tied to the podium in Plaza Independencia. People are sitting on their couches, downloading the app, and eagerly uploading their national IDs, their facial scans, and their banking details into a system that is entirely, completely owned by a transnational hacking cartel.
If we synthesize all these forensic reports and threat intelligence breakdowns into a core lesson, it really requires a massive paradigm shift in how we view digital threats. We are constantly conditioned by movies and media to fear the shadowy syndicate utilizing impossibly complex algorithms to break through firewalls.
Right.
But what this case study reveals is that the hackers haven't even started the real heist yet.
They didn't break down the door with the digital battering ram at all. They just walked through an open door, logged into the back end using old credentials, and poured themselves some mate and got comfortable on the couch.
Yeah. The real threat to your digital existence isn't always the sophisticated dark web cartel. The true existential threat is the systemic kindergarten-level negligence of the institutions that are sworn to protect your data.
It's just staggering incompetence.
It is the failure to use multi-factor authentication on administrative accounts. It is the failure to revoke exposed API keys after a known breach. It's the blatant violation of the principle of least privilege, giving an old digital identity system master access to a brand new financial wallet. And it is entirely compounded by their absolute refusal to warn you when their negligence inevitably leads to a collapse.
It really is. The incompetence truly deserves its own comic book panel. And the craziest part is, the story doesn't end here.
Yeah.
We're going to have to wait to see what happens in episode 3 of this digital disaster.
Yeah.
But as we sign off on this theatrical narrative, I want to reiterate something crucial.
Yeah.
While our presentation today was filled with campy sound effects and dramatic irony, the forensic intelligence we unpacked is empirical fact. The API vulnerabilities, the biometric manipulation overriding the physical cameras, the deliberate deployment of the protocol of silence, all of it is entirely terrifyingly real.
It is empirical reality masquerading as a farce. And, before we close out this deep dive, the intelligence reports raise an important, final, provocative thought for you to mull over.
Lay it on us.
So we focused heavily on the Uruguayan infrastructure today. But if we pull back and look at the broader regional intelligence, the neighboring Argentine government has been heavily pushing a massive infrastructure project called the Social Digital Twin.
The Gemelo Digital Social. I've read about this.
Yes. It is a proposed, highly centralized system designed to create a complete algorithmic representation of every single citizen. The goal is to optimize governance, distribute welfare, and track social mobility through a single master database. Now, consider everything we just explored. If state apparatuses are currently deploying Protocol of Silence Level 3 just to cover up a digital wallet failure, lying to the press while citizens buy 500 phantom dairy cows and biometric flags are flipped by a cartel, what happens when that same state holds a centralized algorithmic clone of your entire existence?
Oh, wow. If that titanium vault gets breached and the manager's key is taped to the door.
What happens when the cartel doesn't just drain your bank account, but permanently alters the algorithmic data that defines your life? If the database is manipulated and the state absolutely refuses to admit it was hacked because of semantic minimization, how do you mathematically prove who you actually are when the sovereign database insists you are someone else entirely?
That is heavy. And it brings us right back to the beginning of the show. We all want the clean binary X-ray. We want to look at our phones and believe that the systems holding our identities are built like impenetrable titanium vaults. But the reality is a murky, invisible trapdoor built on unrevoked keys and corporate PR strategies. And the only way to navigate it is to demand radical transparency before the system shatters completely. KABOOM. Catch you on the next deep dive.